Hello? Can anyone hear me? I just make sure my mic works and then we'll get started. See, all right, great. All right, during the stream, you'll see me look this way a lot because I've got the chat open right here on the side, just so I can answer any questions. What I'll do is I'll go over several topics for the AP exam, for the SAT math section, and then at the end I'll answer any general questions. If there's any specific questions exactly on the topic, then drop them on the chat, and then I'll answer them while we go through. Like, oh, can you go over this concept again? Like short stuff like that. Let me open up my screen, the slideshow. All right. So there we go. We've got the slides. All right. So welcome to Math Prep 2. Also, don't forget while you're at it, we've got the 4 polls I've set up. So just so I know like where people are, what some things like we need go over. So I've got that set up also, just so I can go through. I see that most of the people are taking it in November. We've got a few Decembers. We've got a March, and then a lot of seniors. A lot of people into the first, and then our people going to the next stream. All right. So let's see here. So with November, let's see, some last minute tips that before the AP exam or the SAT exam tips I have are that make sure you get to your SAT test location about around 7:30, which is 30 minutes before the AP exam the SAT starts. That's not like that's generally would give you enough time to go find a room. Like make sure you have your stuff, and then make sure you print out your admission ticket and make sure like the picture is not like weirdly printed. Make sure like it looks completely fine. Make sure to have your ID, otherwise you won't be able to get into the exam. And then you can only bring wooden pencils. You're not allowed to bring mechanical pencils into the room. And then other devices. So what I generally do is for phones, I completely shut off my phone, and then I have my either that or I don't even bring my phone at all into the exam, because if it goes off, that's like they're gonna cancel your scores even if it wasn't on you. And then same thing, like make sure with a watch, I brought an analog watch because those are allowed, and that allows you to like check, because depending, you might not know where the clock is, or like it might be like in a position that'd be awkward to look at when if you want to check time. So it's easier just to have like a small analog watch that doesn't make any sounds, like right there on your desk. All right, so let's just jump right into it. All right, so these are the social medias we've got. We've got the Twitter, the Instagram, and the YouTube. All right, so these are the next coming important dates. So October 28th is the SAT reading prep, and October 29th at 8 p.m. EST is the writing language preview. So those are the next 2 streams that are coming up. I'm not going to be streaming them. Someone else is going to be. And then on the 2nd, which is next Saturday or next week, will be the national SAT date. And then these are the upcoming AP language streams. So on the 30th is October current events. This is AP language. On the 4th of November, we've got rhetorical analysis body paragraphs, which is aligned with the AP essay or the SAT essay. And then the 7th is the November article for the month. These are just for AP Langs. If you're just here for SAT, you might want to go to the 4th, the stream on November 4th, just for that prep on the SAT essay. So let's just jump into it. I got this puzzle from Puzzles@World. For those of you who came last time, like I started with the puzzle, so we can start with this with it again. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to try to crack the code, and then once you've got it, drop it in the chat. And if I'm ever going too fast, just tell me to slow down. Oh, and well placed would mean like it's in the correct location. All right, we've got people saying 781. Anyone else get anything different? Got the same? Is anyone stumped? Do they need any help? Does anyone want me to start explaining? Wait longer? All right. I'm zooming. Though, let's say people are confused, so let me start breaking it down. So we have, these are our 5 lines that we are given. So we know nothing is correct in these 3 lines. So we can automatically take out the 5 here. We can take out this 0 here. So we know that was 8 or 6 is in the answer. And we know here that 4 or 8 is in the answer. So we can keep that info later. All right, then we can also see here that 4, 6, 7, and 6 are here. But we look at this. We have a 4 here that says it's correct, but in the wrong place. And we look at the top, and we see a 4 correct, but in the wrong place. And a number can't, without changing its position, can't be in the same or the wrong position. So that means it's not 4. So 4 is not in the actual answer. Meaning, and we know 5 isn't in the answer. So that means the last digit is 8. All right, so we know that. We know the last digit is 8. So let's try solving the first 2 digits. We go here and we see this. We look at this line. And I know when we notice that, well, 7 is here and we have a 1. We know that the 7, it says 2 digits are correct but in the wrong places. So if I take out the 5, because we know it's not in there, we know there's a 1 and a 7 in the correct answer. Meaning that there's a 1, that it could be either 718 or 178. But then we can look at this and we see this number right here. We know that we have to change 2 positions in these 2 numbers. But if we have 178, the 1 isn't changing its position, meaning the 7 has to go here and the 1 has to go to here, meaning the answer is 718. Did everyone figure out, but does anyone not understand how we got to the answer of 718? No one's saying anything in the chat? Let me refresh the chat just to be safe. All right, I'm going to move on. I'm assuming that everyone understood. Oh, there we go. There's the chat. Okay. All right. Wait, Jonathan, do you need help or are you stuck? So, I'm gonna move on. Oh, okay, you're good. All right, great. So let's go over what is in the SAT math section. So we've got two sections. We've got the no calculator, which is 25 minutes, 20 questions, and 5 student response questions included in those 20 questions. So it's 15 multiple choice and 5 student produced responses. I'll go over what student produced responses are in a second. All right. Then we've got the calculator section, which is 55 minutes, 38 questions, and 8 of those 38 questions are student-produced responses. For a calculator, what I personally use is this TI 84 plus CE. That's a test. This is what I use because it's like this. Like you can use this calculator later on, and it's also like has graphing capabilities, so it's pretty nice. If you don't want to spend so much, and you don't think you're going to ever need a graphing calculator, then my second choice would be the TI 34 multi-view. But yeah, those are just two example calculators. College Board has an entire list of what calculators are accepted for the SAT on their website. So this is what student-produced responses are. So they'll give you a box that looks like this, right? And then you have to answer the choice. You have to put your answer in here, and then bubble the bubbles that'll look like this. They don't care about positioning. And then it says here acceptable ways of 2/3 are this, this, and this. Personally, I would recommend going with the fraction if it's something that like doesn't have a ending. If they say to round it to like the nearest like 10th, then you should obviously put a decimal. But you generally, if it has like a decimal that continuously goes on, then putting a fraction is always the best choice. And then let's see what else. The positioning doesn't matter, and they're going to tell you these instructions on the SAT. But generally, with the SAT is you should know the instructions and the instructions are something you never look at. Like you know them, they're the exact same time in your you know them what they're going to say because it's the exact same time every time. So generally, people who read the instructions it's generally a waste of time where you could be answering questions. Because like this is just the exact same stuff that you should have already known previously, which is like because all the instructions and stuff are online. 7, 12, right. So that's everything for students produced responses. Now we can go into our first section, which are our first concept to go over today, which is interpreting linear models. So on the SAT, we've got linear models. So you'll face linear model questions that have real world problems. So basically anything with a linear equation, and then you'll need to identify portions of the question, like the y-intercept, slope, and other parts of the equation. So here I've given an example of a question. So we've got the value V in dollars of a home from 2000 to 2015 is shown by this equation right here, where T is the years since 2000. So we've got two questions here. What best describes the meaning of 6,500,000 and 7,000? So if you know the answer, go ahead, drop it in the chat. And then generally these will be multiple choice, unless they ask you like, what is the y-intercept of this, or something else. But generally these are multiple choice. All right, so we've got our first response. All right, so yeah, 65,000 is the starting value. And then we've got, initial value for 6,500,000, and 7,000, how much it increases by. So let's spread. Okay, so that's some of the responses we're getting in the chat. So we look at, yes, 6,500,000 is the value of the home in 2000. They're going to be formal with their language. And then we'll look at this. We're decreasing value. We've got a minus here, not a plus. It's the yearly decrease. because we start at 6,500,000, but we're losing 7,000 each year. They'll have some easy questions, but they'll be like that where you'll automatically put plus, like you'll think plus because that'll be like the first three choices are like it's increasing, so and you'll just put like the first thing you see, and those are there so you get them wrong. So you've got to like read carefully what each question says. So I've got a practice question here. We've got this. The recipe for sweetening chocolate uses the equation uses this equation right here, which is S equals 10 minus 2H, where S is the amount of sugar in teaspoons that should be added and H ounces of cocoa beans. What does 2 mean here? So I believe we've got some multiple choices here. It's cut off right here, but this right here says more, and this right here says B. People are dropping B into the chat. B. All right, we've got 3 B's. Anyone have anything different? Anything have anything the same? Anyone not know how to do this? If I'm going too fast. Got another B. Anyone else? Is that it? All right. So this is another example where you have to read carefully. That's just what these problems are, just reading carefully. So in this equation, we have that if you have 0 ounces of cocoa beans, you're just going to put 10 teaspoons of sugar. That's what the equation gives us. It might not make sense, but that's just how it is right now. That's what the equation tells us it is. Meaning the more cocoa beans we add, the less sweet it gets, or the less sugar we need to add because it's already more sweet, even though cocoa beans are bitter. I don't know why, but that's what the equation is. So we've got for each ounce of cocoa beans, more teaspoons of sugar should be added. Well, if we add more teaspoons, we don't have anything about adding sugar here. We're showing how we're subtracting sugar beans as we add cocoa beans. So this doesn't look like it. For each ounce of cocoa beans in the chocolate, two fewer teaspoons of sugar should be added. So if we plug in 1, we get out 8, which is meeting what B says. We'll save that later and go over C and D just to be safe. Because C or D might be more correct, because that's what College Board will do sometimes. They'll put 2 answers that are both technically correct, but one might be just a little bit more correct than the other, and that will make the other one the correct answer, which leads some people to get it wrong. So see, we have for each ounce of cocoa beans added, 1 fewer teaspoon of sugar should be added. Well, here we're taking away 2, so it's not C. And then D, it's saying for each ounce we're adding 1 more teaspoon of sugar, which we're not doing here, meaning final answer B, which is correct. Does anyone not understand how we do this problem? Well, good. All right. Let's go over rates. So most rate problems are straightforward. Some aren't, but most of them are. Using conversion factors is a good way to go in most situations, but it's not. Some are easier and you don't have to use conversion factors. And here's just a tip from experience: when if there's a question that's confusing, put everything in the same kind of unit because it makes it easier to solve later on. So those are just some tips about rates. Rates are pretty basic, so I didn't see the need of putting an example question here. So rates here are we've got 3 problems here. Got 3 problems here. A, Tom buys 4 jars of honey for $9, and he sells, or it could be a she, who knows? Maybe it's short for something, I don't know. Can sell 3 jars for $15. How many jars does she sell to make? Does she have to sell to make $132? And then for B, Mike installs in 1 hour. Mike installs between 6 to 8 windows. How many hours could it be that it takes Jason or Mike to install 100 windows? And then we've got 3 answer choices here. And then a clock with low batteries falls behind at the same rate each hour. It's set to the correct time at 5 a.m. At 6 a.m. it shows, or at 6 when it shows 6 a.m. I'm gonna quickly change this because this makes no logical sense. So if I do this at 6 a.m. according to the clock, it's 8. It is 8 present. Quickly change this. At 6 a.m. according to the clock, it's 6:08. So what time is it when the clock shows 11:30? These generally would be calculator questions, so feel free to use your calculators. And then I never introduced myself. Well, I'm Tejas. I have done the SAT twice so far in specifics to the SAT, and the last time I took it was August, and I got only 1 wrong, which I'm proud of, on the math section, which is pretty nice. The curve wasn't nice that year though, or that test. So generally, when people get 1 wrong, 1 or 2 wrong, you still get an 800 on that section. But that time the curve wasn't nice, so I got a 770 on the math section. So that's just about me. All right, someone's saying 16 for B. And for question B, they'll put these questions in different types. Like you'll see this like exact same concept in different types of questions. Like they'll have like a fraction like 3/4, and then they'll have x over 6, for example. And then they'll have, so you'll have like 3/4 is less than x over 6 is less than 9 over 8. It's kind of like the similar concept about having a range of how many, like for example, in this problem, how many windows. So you've got to deal with the range in like different denominators. So it's like a kind of a similar concept that you have to deal with, and then you just have to put x. Like you have to answer what x is, and so it's like another example of like how they would put these questions in like a different like form that like it'll look different, or they'll combine like fractions and rates, because technically those could be like those are like you can consider them as rate questions. Has anyone solved A? Is anyone completely confused on how to solve? People are really shy and they're not willing to go into the chat. Or is it just my second display does not want to tell me what the chat is saying? Could be any of those. All right, someone's confused on A. Someone says A is 26.4. So let's just break down A, all right? So we know Tom buys 4 jars of jelly for $9, right? So, and she sells 3 jars of jelly, or jars of honey, sorry, for $15. Meaning for every, so let's say this. How much does she buy 1 jar of honey for? So we can do 9 divided by 4, which will get 2.25, meaning each jar of honey costs Tom $2.25. And she sells each one for $5 because 15 divided by 3 is 5. Meaning that on each jar, she makes $2.75. And she wants to make 132. So if we do 132 divided by 2.75, we'll get she has to sell 48. Everyone understand how we got A? Generally, when you have to deal with graphs, generally most of the time, unless like if they say round, most of the time the numbers you deal with are whole numbers, unless you're on the calculator student response choices where there's there could be decimals and it's like a higher chance of not having a decimal problem than not having a decimal problem, like an answer having decimals in it. Or and there are generally more times where it'll be a fraction, even in a fraction in like non-standard form, so like 9/4, then there will be decimals. Everyone figure out how to do A? Or are you still confused? Yeah, okay. So we know this. Tom buys jars of honey. She buys four, or he or she, whatever it is, buys 4 jars of honey for $9. So we want to know how much money does she make, or how much does she buy each jar for? We know it's 9 for every 4, so what's 1? So we can do 9 divided by 4 to get 2.25, meaning each jar of honey costs $2.25. And we can look, and she sells 3 jars for 15, meaning she sells a jar. She sells each jar for $5. Right? Meaning that for each jar, she makes $2.75 profit. So she wants to make $132. She doesn't want to sell enough to make $132. She wants to. She doesn't want to sell because, like, if she just sells the amount, but she'll also have to take away money for buying it. We want to know how much she wants to make or a profit of. So we know that she wants to make $132 in profit, and for every jar she gets $2.75 for profit. So if we do 132 divided by $2.75, we'll get the number of jars she has to sell to make a profit of $132, which is 48. All right. Yeah. All right. We've got one person who said. All right. We can get to C. All right. We have one person who put 16. Anyone else have a B other than Sandra? I might be mispronouncing your name. If I am, I'm truly sorry. Anyone else? All right. Does anyone need help on B? You understand how to solve it? All right. So we know this. In 1 hour, Mike installs between 6 and 8 windows. So we want to know how many hours does it take to Mike, or it says here Jason, well, let's pretend they're going at the same rate, install 100 windows. Right? So we can take our calculator and we can take 100 and divide it by 6. We want to know the minimum and when you have something with installs between, you want to know the lower end and the upper end. So we can do 100 divided by 6 and 100 divided by 8. So when you do 100 divided by 6, you know it's 16.66666 repeated, meaning that at the slowest rate, it takes them 16.666 hours, meaning it can't be 17 and 18. So we can cross those out. And when you divide it by 8, you know that it takes him 12.5 hours, meaning it can't be 12, and the remaining answer is 16. That's generally the way to go with these answers. You find the lower limit, you find the upper limit, and then generally there'll be one answer. There might be 2, and it'll give you additional info how to make that 1. But that's generally how you solve those problems. Everyone got it? I'm really focused. That's just the way I do how I roll, because I think it's better where people can get like the support they need instead of me just running through everything. And if you're confused, then like you get lost behind, and that doesn't help you. All right. why don't you round to 16.6? So we have 4 answer choices that were given, 12, 16, 17, and 18. And we know that he's installing between 6 or 8. And like these are the 4 answer choices we were given. If it was a student-produced answer, even then, because it says between and it's not inclusive, 16.6 would not work. So we were given 4 answer choices, and 16 was the other one. And if it was student-produced responses, going 16.5 or rounding so that you're between is always a safer option if you want to put decimals. But you could put 16 because then you have to do less bubbling to do, which saves even a little bit of time. Because that might let you check one more question later on, which might let you check another point, fix another question, which could give you like 10 more points or 20 more points, or even 30 to 40 more points, depending on the curve. Yeah. All right. We had one person say 11:52 for C. Does anyone else have anything else for C? We've got 10:26. Anyone else? Anyone else completely lost on how to do the problem, or is everyone trying to solve it? Yeah, I'm just waiting to see if people are lost, they're trying to solve it. Because if you practice it, then you actually it's easier. You learn when you're practicing questions, not when you're listening or hearing. If you don't know a concept, then you can go and listen to hear, but you should practice first. Practice is important. So I want to make sure everyone is caught up, or like no one, like everyone's like got the answer, or like I don't want anyone to stay behind doing the answer. Well, I tell them, because that will give you less practice, even though you're reaching the same point in the end where you got the answer. Reading and listening will give you less practice than actually doing the problem. All right. Yes. So the question C is more of something you would see on the exam. So we know this. Every hour, the clock goes back 8 minutes, because from 5 to 6, well, according to the clock, it was actually 6 to 8, meaning it lost 8 hours. And so between 6, all right, so we take our calculator and we can see this. Well, between every hour, it loses 8 minutes, and between 6 and 11:30, or we can do this, 5 and 11:30, it's 6.5 hours. So we take 6.5 and multiply it by 8, right? Meaning 52 minutes. And if we add 52 minutes to if we add 52 minutes to the previous time, then we can get 12:22. The previous time is 11:30. Everyone got it? Want me to go over it again? All right. I'm gonna go a bit slower. All right. So we have. Okay. Do you know how many minutes in 1 hour, or in the clock thinks it's 1 hour? How many minutes has it actually been? So if the clock goes 60 minutes, in real life, we know it's gone. No, not the answer. In the clock, when the clock goes from 5 to 6, according to the slow clock, like it has low batteries, right? We know in 60 minutes, how many minutes how much real time has passed. Unlike the clock, well, we know that it's actually 6:08. So we know that it's actually been 68 minutes. So when the clock every hour, so the clock every hour is slowing down by 8 minutes. So we can take our calculator, and we know between 5 and 11:30, it's 6.5 hours. And every hour, it goes behind by 8 minutes. So we can multiply that 8. So meaning between 5 and 11:30, it's gone back, or when the clock thinks it's 11:30, it's actually 52 minutes behind. Because remember, this 11:30 is actually what the clock thinks, not what it is in real time. Because it says when the clock shows. It's another trick where they'll put a small detail right there, and several people will get it wrong. So we take 11:30 and 11:30, and we multiply it. We add 52 to it. We'll get 1022. Why do we multiply per 8? Because we know that every hour the clock is going back by 8 minutes. Because from 5 to 6, according to the clock, it was actually 5 to 6:08. So we're calculating the rate of how much time it goes back. So we know that between 5 and 11:30, it's 6.5 hours. And so we multiply it by 8 to get the actual amount of time that it's gone back. Do you want me to go over that again? Yes, we multiplied 6.5 by 8 because we want to calculate the amount of time that the clock has fallen backwards between when the clock showed 5 to when the clock showed 11:30. And the amount of time between 5 and 11:30 is 6.5 hours. So that means 6.5 times 8 is 52 minutes. So that means between 5 a.m. and 11:30, the clock has fallen back 52 minutes. So if we add 52 minutes to 11:30, we get 12:22, which is our answer. Great. Go to the next slide. All right. So today we went by. So this is our last topic for today. Today we went a bit quicker than we did Tuesday. So I did take out. Should take out another section. I can still go over more things if we need to, depending on time. But today we went quicker, so which is kind of nice. So which means we can go over more content. So we've got statistics part 1. So statistics, this is the most amount of questions that you'll have statistics wise on the on the SAT exam. There is a little bit more statistics you'll have, but I've personally never seen any more statistics than this. I mean, you can have more like population versus sample. You can have more problems. I've personally never seen them. So that's something you want to like study like last end, because like those are really rare, and those generally are like basic, like those are like more intuitive questions than like these comparatively. So like this is generally why I'm only going over this. If we have time like during a later stream and like we've covered everything else that's important, I'll go over part 2, but this is just why I've labeled it part 1. So these are just the basic definitions of statistics. So we've got the mean, or the average of what numbers add up to, divided by the number of numbers in a set. We've got the median, which is the middle number in a set. The mean is the number that repeats the most in a set. And the range is the difference between the largest and smallest number in a set. And the standard deviation is a measure of how the spread of a list of numbers is, or yes, I put median here. I put mean. I put mean twice. I meant to put mode. Correct. Thank you for catching that. And my computer has frozen. There we go. Yes, so the mode is the number of how that repeats the most in a set. Range is the difference between the largest and the smallest number in a set, and the standard deviation is the measure of how the spread of a list of numbers is, or the average distance of the mean. Meaning, like the distance between the distance between a number and the mean. You take the mean of that that distance, and that's your standard deviation. So we've got 3 questions here. Anyone is ready? I'll give you a few minutes to work these out. Once you've got the answers, feel free to drop it in the chat. If you're stuck, drop that in the chat. If you want me to explain anything further, go back to the definitions. Just tell me. Can you explain standard deviation? One person has gone 5 for A. So A, for Sandra, if I'm pronouncing your name correct, we were given 2 sets, and we have to find which set has the largest standard deviation. We're not trying to find the mean in that problem. I'm not saying it's right. No, I'm saying our answer should be a set of numbers. So our answer should either be this or this. It shouldn't be a single number. Oh, okay. Okay, that's good to know, because I have had people mispronounce my name all the time. We wanted the definition for standard deviation. So actually, we'll go over standard deviation for question A. But let's say this: I want to know. We've got 10 people, and each of the 10 people live. And in the center, we've got 10 people, and in the center of all the people, they live they all live different amount of miles away from this one spot, right? So the distance, so the standard deviation is, so let's say this: you've got 10 people, all right, and that's not a good example actually. So you have a set of numbers, and you take the mean of it, all right? And you take this mean of it, and you look at what's the average distance from numbers from the mean. This comes in handy when you're looking at like outliers, for example. But you take so you take that distance from the mean for each number, and you average it. And that's your standard deviation, the average distance of any number in a set to the mean. That, yeah, it's a confusing concept, and like you'll get around it. Generally, for the SAT questions, you don't need to know any formula calculations like that I have experienced. These are like generally like you know what the definition is, then like you can like intuit, like you can figure it out without having to do any questions by actually like looking at the problem, saying like looking at like how far each number is away from the mean, and then you'll get your answer. So you don't have to use a calculator for any standard deviation questions. So that's why they might be on both sections. I think C is 67. All right. Is that everyone? Anyone else? And for the mean, let's say this. Let's say I wanted to find the mean of this set right here. Right here. This is another thing about the mean. So we can take away the 2 and the 7. We can weigh the 2 and the 6, and we get the 2 and the 5. And to find the actual mean, or the median, you take the mean of the middle of if you have an even amount of numbers, you take the middle 2 numbers, if it's an even amount of numbers in a set, and you take the average of that to get your median. If it's an odd amount of numbers, it should come out to an exact value. All right, so we've got people who got A, B, and C. Anyone not understand how to do any of them? Anyone still trying to figure it out? So A could be. If you were here on my last stream, you would have remembered that I was continuously switching between the chat. So it's nice that I have got. It's nice that now that I can see it, answer any questions without having to switch back and forth. But yeah, how's everyone's day going? Pretty good. Mine's been great, actually. I live in California, and so the California, just living in the threat of the power shutoffs. Ooh, we've got another California. But yeah, living under the constant threat of the power shutoffs isn't the best. Stressful. I mean, plus it's like the second one that we've ever had. So like like your first few tornadoes, earthquakes, hurricanes will be you'll get like stressful, but after that you'll get used to them. So I mean, we'll see how it goes. So you don't know when they're gonna turn off, and you don't know when they're gonna come back. Does everyone like having like the class right now? Do you want it earlier, later? You don't like Saturdays? You prefer like a different day? You don't like weekends? You like the weekdays? I mean, we are getting pretty close. For most of you who are taking the November, you guys, no one's taking it in June. Yeah. Okay. So Okay. Now is good. All right, so we've got some nows. We've got earliers, and we've got weekends. All right. What about if I moved? Let's say this: we did math review 3, and it was 1 hour earlier than when this one started. How would that be? Or half an hour, half an hour. Would that be too? All right, that'd be fine. All right. If we ever do math review number 3, keep that in mind. We'll see. Is anyone, whoever is doing the November SAT, in the poll there are 70 of you. Did anyone, are you guys taking the essay, or you guys aren't taking the essay? Because I can go over a bit of the essay. Stuff you need to know. Essay, no essay. All right. I mean, yeah, the essay really depends on which college you want to apply to. Some colleges are colleges you want to go to. Some colleges require it, some don't require it. But yeah, most colleges require it. You're taking the essay early in March. You have to remember also that you have to take the entire SAT. So unless the college you want to go to super scores, then yeah, you should be ready for the essay when you, like the first time around. Because then that means you have to do a good score again, and then you have to do good on the essay. But I mean, if this is your first SAT, yeah, you can do it. Would you see the SAT as a major decision factor? So, first depends on the college you're going to. Each college has has their own unique ranking systems. For example, some colleges only look at your GPA and SAT, and that's it. And then SAT is a pretty big factor. Some colleges look at like 20 different things. They'll look at your GPA, SAT, extracurriculars, volunteer hours, any awards, like tons and tons of different stuff. Look at that. So depending, like there's some colleges who will look at like your middle school. Okay, there's probably one college that does that, like looks at like a long like middle school also. So each college is different, but I'd say and the SAT and the GPA are the biggest two factors. Generally, most colleges have it online, or if you're high school or they do like college visits or college, they will tell you, so you can always ask. But yeah, the SAT and GPA are major too. And this was why the SAT was created. So I was watching this video a long time ago. Like the SAT was made because what if I get an A in my school, and then that might not be an A in someone else's school because the effort that they grade in might be different, which is why the SAT exists, is because it's like a more like equalizer. Like it gives everyone on an equal it's supposed to give everyone on an equal scale. I mean, it doesn't always, which is why people don't really like the SAT and why colleges don't require it anymore. But yeah, that's just how it is. All right, let's go over. Anyone have any other quick questions, or should we go over the answers? All right, we can do this. Go over the answers. All right, We can finish up, and then I'll stay and I'll answer any questions you have about high school, SAT, APs, anything in general. Last minute tips. If you want like any like last minute essay, because the essay review is after the November SAT. All right, so we go here, go question A, which has the largest standard deviation? We've got 2, 2, 2, 5, 6, 7, and 5, 5, 5, 5, 6, 7. So yes, the standard deviation was the average distance from the mean. So we don't have to calculate it. We could, but we can look at here at the second set and now, well, the mean will probably be like, around 5 and 6. And we can look at here, oh, the mean will probably be around 3. And now the distance from like between 5 and 6 is a lot less here than it is like between 2 and or like 7 and like 4. Like the distance is larger, meaning that the set A will have the largest standard deviation. Did everyone understand how we got to that conclusion? Great. Question B. A food company hires a research company to find a product's shelf life. Using a sample of 40 units, they find the product has a shelf life of 3 days. Which of the following is true? All the units, see that E, expired within 3 days. The unit with the longest shelf life took 3 days longer to expire than the unit with the shortest. The mean shelf life of the units was more than 3 more than the mean, or the shelf life instead of mean. The shelf life of the units is 3 more than the mean, because that sounds more correct for what would be on a question. And then D, the median shelf life of the units is 3 more than the mean. I think this might be supposed to be saying, they should say median, so the median shelf life of the units is 3 more than the mean. I remember seeing one person say B earlier. Does anyone have any other answers that they have? All right, we've got one person who says C. I know, okay, so someone said C before also. Okay, so one person says C. All right, so C says, I'm going to go through them. Let's just start from D. The median shelf life of the units is 3 more than the mean. The question is asking, is the product of the shelf life. Using a same, okay, so yeah, A is this, 2 is B. So using a sample of 40 units, they find that the product has a shelf life of 3 days. I think I figured out why you guys got confused. I'm not the best at making presentations. Yeah, has a range self life. So yeah, so it should be B, because that's like what the definition of a range is. So I mean, I can see why you put C. It was kind of confusing. But yeah, generally the AP exam, they'll put like the word without range, and then they'll have answers that are really close, and it'll be like the one that's more correct, and that's something they'll put on the AP exam. I'll get another example one, and we can go over that one also. And then for question set C, does anyone have an answer for what C is? Anyone know what C is? Someone said 67. Anyone else? Anyone need help on how to figure out C? No one. People trying to solve C currently. All right, trying to solve C. I'll give you a few more minutes. And then don't forget, you have the questions bar. So if you have any questions you want me to answer now or later, just put it in the Ask a Question section. There's faster way. I mean, I don't know the way you did it. So, I mean, there could be a faster way. You could have done it the fastest way. I mean, generally, okay, if I looked at this question, right? I look at this question, Neil. It would generally take me about 15 to 20 seconds. The fastest way. What I believe is the fastest way. Each person is different. But if I looked at this, it would probably take me only 50 to 20 seconds to see what the answer is. Or 10 to 15, sorry. Another person saying 67. So yeah, there's the quick and short way, but sometimes you might get incorrect, depending on, like, you might read the question too fast. And there's a long way, which generally would be more accurate. Some of the time, not always. All right. And you want me to go over the answer now? Anyone want me to still wait? $67 because it's the most frequent. That's what someone says. All right. So the answer is 67. So the question asks what the question asks what the median is, meaning what's the middle amount, not which one happens the most, but it's the middle. Yes, it's 67 because it's the middle number. The most, if it was asking for the mode, then it would be 67 because it's the most frequent, but it's 67 because it's the middle amount, because that's what the median is. So the quickest way, what I believe is to solve it, is I look at this and I say, all right, this number is 3, 7. That's 7. Boom. That's out. Oh, 4 and 10. 10 is bigger. That means the median is one of the 67 values, meaning the answer is 67. That's what I believe is the quickest way to solve it. I mean, if you wanted to, you could write it all out and say, okay, 60, 70, 60, 70, 60, 70, 61, 70. And you could just keep on crossing out on the sides until you get to the middle. Everyone understand how we got 67? Anyone want me to explain how I thought what I thought was the most quickest way? Anyone else want a different way to solve it? Good. One person says good. Anyone else? Trying to figure out what I said. Nope. All right. So that's my computer. Every topic, like I decided that we should go over today. These are like some of the most like basic, like one of the questions that we'd see that are like that you'll see the most on. The stuff what we didn't go over on, which if we had like another stream, it would be geometry, so triangles and circles. Those are the last amount you'll see most on the question on the SAT. You'll only see though maybe one geometry in no calculator and maybe 2 to 3 geometries in calculator. So up maybe if like assuming like the most amount of geometry questions you see, maybe around 4 to 5 in the exam. So that's like the last thing if we wanted to cover a main topic, but that would take a while. When would the next stream happen? So math, as of currently, well, I don't know if there'll be another current stream. There might be another one. You'll just see it on your menu. But on the 28th, as I said before, if we go up, the upcoming, you have SAT reading on the 28th and SAT writing and language on the 29th. and essays on the 4th. All right. Does anyone have any questions for me? Anyone have any questions for me? So you've got the ask a question. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat or ask the questions. So this is the time where I'll just answer your questions about any section on SAT. Meaning, if you were doing a reading test earlier and you were stuck on something, you wanted help on essay because essay is after, I can help you a little bit. Anyone need any help? Any questions? If not, that's everything we have for today. Usually, how many paragraphs are in essay? So okay, yeah. So I generally, all right. So the essay, the College Board will give you more points for the amount of you generally get you have a higher chance of getting more points for the most amount of words you have. So generally, you want to recommend about 500 words, or like breaking it down into this. You've got your intro paragraph, you've got your 3 points that you make, and then you've got your conclusion paragraph. So 5 paragraphs. That's what I personally do. And then, but that's basically it. I mean, you could put a 4th, but I think that'd be too much. And then having 2 body paragraphs won't be the best. And then you have to have an intro and you have to do the conclusion. You don't have to do the essay. Yet you have to buy if you want to do the essay, you have to buy it. It's $13, I believe 50 cents extra more on top of it. And you can always choose until I believe a few days before the essay if you want to add it or remove it, I believe. What's the essay like? So the essay, you will get, okay, I don't have an example with me right now. You'll get they'll give you a short article, and the article will be trying to persuade the audience in some way or some form, or I should say. So yeah, so the essay, you will be given an article. The article will be trying to persuade some point in some way or some form, and you're going to be having to write an essay on how the author uses like rhetorical, persuasive, and other techniques to effectively persuade his audience into proving and then the point. And it's the exact same thing every single time. It's just the article is different. So the prompt is always the same. Yeah. All right. So I still have not been done. I want to take it one more time. I'm thinking about taking it in December. I started preparing in December, but I prepared really little. Like I didn't start actually preparing until last summer. I'm currently a junior. But yeah, I prepared for a little bit over winter break. That's when I first got introduced. I did all the basic SAT prep then. And I slowly did a little bit during the school year. I mean, I didn't have much time. And then summer, I had more time, so I started preparing. And so I took the June SAT, and I took the August SAT, and I'm planning to finish up do for me. My weakest points are reading. That's I didn't do great on reading at all on the August SAT. Everything else was great. And once I just need to just finish up a little bit, and then I'll be done. So it will be, I mean, technically you can say a year, but then from January to June, I wasn't preparing much. I didn't have time to. And same thing till now. That's why I'm taking it all the way in December because I haven't really had the time. Any other questions? Yes, most of the people here are seniors, meaning November, and then depending on the colleges you're applying to, December will be your last chance. Anyone else? Any other questions? Alrighty then. Resuming. No one else? All right, then thank you all for coming. The next SAT prep is on the 28th. And I'll see. Yep. Thank you for coming. And we'll see you all next time. I'll be in the chat for the next few minutes if you have any last minute questions. Other than that, we're good to go.